The 8 minutes and 46 seconds former police officer Derek Chauvin's knee pressed on George Floyd's neck was a clarion call to the soul of a culture more cruel than compassionate, empty than empathetic. And like you, I'm layered, so as a black woman I saw it through the lens of 400 years of collective trauma, a variation on a wearying theme. But as a mother, called like you to nurture the next generation, I wondered, is empathy still a thing? In episode 9, I invited some mom friends to speak to their role in reshaping the race narrative going forward. Their answers were as sobering and sincere as the question deserved. But what about empathy? Isn't it a fundamental part of all human interaction? Where and how is it cultivated? Stick around for a heart-to-heart in episode 45, Empathy Matters. This is Motherhood Unmasked, the podcast for real talk about the challenges moms face. I'm your host, Vanessa Harris. But mama, you're the kind of hero who doesn't need to hide behind a mask. I'm looking forward to connecting with you today. Hey there, Mama Bear. Vanessa here with compassion, candor, and clarity for you, the mom trying to raise caring children in an all too cruel world. Hey friend, I'm so glad you're here to help me wrestle with the messy business called empathy. Why messy? Because one, it's inconvenient in a go, go, go culture. You have to slow down to really see someone, much less care about them. And two, empathy is a feeling. Half the reason we're running around like headless chickens is we don't want to feel a whole lot. Feelings are complicated. And once you feel something, you have to do something with it. And if you're honest, going numb is just easier. One of the things that's grieved me since putting my children back in public school after our homeschool stint is what I hear when they recount their day. The stories they tell about what happened to whom and their tendency over the years to care less about the hurt and chuckle at the heckler. It's not surprising when you herd children who don't know each other together for 8 hours a day, but it means I need to be intentional about creating a very different environment at home. When I look at the criminal justice system, social media, politics, school sports, or school anything, I'm left wondering what happened to human beings, the ones who are supposed to be distinguishable from all other creatures by our souls. When did we lose the art of seeing people, of listening to someone's pain, imagining it being ours, and allowing it to move us to compassion? The Good Samaritan account is a walk in the park compared to the callous way we treat each other today. And I get the temptation to hopelessly throw up your hands and say, Uncle, because the world has gone to hell in a handbasket. But you're an influencer, remember? And your platform has a humanizing effect in a detached society. What platform? Yep, you guessed it. I'm back to the table. Your table. I'm like a dog with a bone when it comes to the kitchen table because when it comes to your family's development, it's the most important spot in your home. In the Table Talk episode 43, I believe, we talked about the opportunity family mealtime gives everyone to check in with each other. And on those days when the heavens open and your child gives you more than a one-word answer when you ask about his day, the table is a place to give empathy. Tempting as it is to fuss at my child for his part in the foolery, what he really needs is for his dad and I to stop and remember what it was like to have and be surrounded by a bunch of teens with spiking hormones and more opportunity for mischief, all while struggling to figure out our place in the world. Then he needs us to put the life lesson to the side long enough to say we can only imagine how tough his experience was because what he faces today is a whole lot more than what we did at his age. and then go on to say we can see why he'd be hurt, confused, frustrated, and what have you, before asking how we can help. We don't always get it right, by the way, but that moment over forkfuls of spaghetti does a couple things. Remind him he's not alone in his very human experience and that we love and care for him. But if everyone's rushing kids around to different sports practices, grabbing takeout on the way, leaving another child at home to be fed by DoorDash night after night, when do we all connect and show we care? So then we can't be surprised by the hateful way kids treat each other in school and on social, or the way adults see injustice and say nothing, or worse, explain it away. It's easy to skip over the whole do unto others thing when no one makes space to do unto you. No one gives from an empty well, not you, not your husband, and not your children. Loved people love, and heard people hear. There's no shortage of people running their mouths today, and if you're like me, you tune many of them out for sanity's sake. But what if we're tuning out people we should be listening to? Is there a connection between the rise in hate crimes, the suicide rate, and social injustice, and the eerily quiet dinner table in a majority of our homes? I ask not to condemn you. I'm not throwing stones from this glass house. I ask because the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Our cruel culture is the elephant in the room, an enormous issue that won't go anywhere unless each household does something where they are. It's time to hit the dinner table with our knife and fork and get to work on the elephant. And speaking of elephants, they're my favorite animals, so the visual of eating an elephant hurts my heart. But that's the proverb somebody made up. It fits, so be it. Just don't let the elephants know I said it. Listen, this episode is my charge, reminding you of the importance you carry, not a chain to weigh you down with guilt. You have access and authority like no one else in your child's life. Own it, brave mama. And that brings us to the segment of the show called Homework, the work a woman does to build her home and family. This week's homework is a continuation of a theme. Over the last few episodes, you've scheduled your weekly family dinners. You have your version of conversation starters to make sharing more inviting, and you figured out how to use mealtime to practice social graces. Now, listen to each other with empathetic ears. My boys shuddered, my husband too, when I announced dinner time is a no-phone zone. We leave them on the kitchen counter while we're eating, and 99% of the time we don't respond to notifications during dinner. Because that's our time to reconnect. And the kitchen table is the magnet that draws us from all over the house to see, listen to, and care for each other. Everyone and everything else can wait. Did my boys roll their eyes when I initiated it? They did. And after I gave them that, "Who are you rolling your eyes at?" look, I proceeded as planned, despite their protest. We've had priceless moments around our table, whether it's a concern over workload, a change in friendship dynamics, or an attack via social media. It's the Selah, the pause we take from the frenzy to decompress and to hear and feel what was shared. And every once in a while, my children mention how many of their peers don't eat meals with their families, how shocked those same kids are that my kids do, and how most of them find it intriguing. Listen, your child thinks they have a reputation to uphold as the self-sufficient teen who needs no one. You and I know nothing could be further from the truth. But this is one of those moments I talked about them needing you, but in a different way. Sometimes they need you to meet their need without them announcing the need and without you announcing you're meeting it. Ridiculous, I know. But everyone needs empathy. They need a soft place to land when life hits hard, and the more they feel cared for, the more they'll care about someone else. We're coming out of the hardest 18 months we've ever known. Empathy matters, now more than ever. And because I care about you, your heart to raise caring, resilient, successful children, and your struggle to do so in a world so opposite of that, I invite you to connect with me. If you need to vent or share your mom concerns with me in a private voice message, you're welcome to do so on my website at vinelifefaith.com/podcast. I'd love to help you any way I can. That URL is also where you can join my email list. That's how I give you more tips and encouragement in between episodes and access to resources that empower you in your role as a mom. Just head on over to vinelifefaith.com/podcast. And if you're having one of those days where you feel like you're failing as a mom, you're not, for the very fact the thought occurred to you. Motherhood is a journey that's not a straight line. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other, pray, connect with a supportive friend, and keep listening to this podcast. Brighter days await you. And remember, when it comes to you being the mother of your children, you are the woman for the job. Take care. If this episode served you well today, go ahead and follow or subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes. And share the podcast with your mom friends too, because every mama can use a little help on her journey. For more from me, come visit my internet home, vinelifefaith.com.